Let us discuss about the sickle cell anemia. And let us start with the oxygen. We breathe. And why do we breathe? Because we need oxygen so that it can burn the food and liberate the energy, and we can capture that energy into the form of ATP and we can utilize it later. Main idea is that we cannot let oxygen to roam around independently because it has this capacity to make some reactive oxygen species. And if we want to make it travel, we have to assist it with different kinds of protein molecule, and these molecules are nothing but the hemoglobin and the myoglobin. Myoglobin is the molecule that is made up of a single chain of the polypeptide. You can say it's a tertiary structure, and it is older than the hemoglobin, and hemoglobin came much later. So if we just take a look at how the lineage looks like, so 11 million years ago we had the myoglobin, and slowly and steadily, as the time was passing by, we got different variations of different variations of this myoglobin, and that were alpha, beta, delta, epsilon, so many different kinds of hemoglobin molecule that we can already find out in our body. Now the main idea is like, what are the main hemoglobin molecule that we have in our body? If we consider like alpha, beta, gamma, and epsilon and delta, these are the main ones. And one hemoglobin molecule, on one hand, myoglobin is just a one polypeptide chain, while hemoglobin is made up of 4 polypeptide chain. It's a quaternary structure, so different permutation combination of alpha, beta, gamma can give us different kinds of hemoglobin. So if we just take a look at, you have heard about the hemoglobin A. So A stands for adult hemoglobin. So if two alpha chains and 2 beta chains come together, they are going to make one hemoglobin, which is known as the HbA, which is adult hemoglobin. On the other hand, if 2 alpha chains and 2 gamma chains come together, it makes HbF, which is known as the fetal hemoglobin. Now we are supposed to know what is the significance of having a adult hemoglobin and what is the significance of having a fetal hemoglobin. So we are supposed to snatch oxygen from the air, and we snatch it from the air, we place it onto the hemoglobin molecule, and we expect it to go to the tissue and deliver it there. But what happens, like, we know that hemoglobin molecule which is there into the fetus has to perform this activity to snatch oxygen from the maternal hemoglobin. So affinity of hemoglobin or affinity of oxygen onto the hemoglobin F or onto the fetal hemoglobin has to be more, so that it can snatch oxygen from the adult hemoglobin, from the mother, into this very particular case. So that is why we need HbF into the fetal condition. And the scenario changes as we take birth, and after some weeks we start to make hemoglobin A as compared to more hemoglobin A as compared to hemoglobin F. There is a slight different version of HbA, which is known as the HbA2, is there from the it can be made from the 2 alpha and the 2 delta one. Okay, apart from that, if we just take a look at the same idea, that if the child is taking birth, and we know that it does not have bones at that particular time period, and bones are the position, bone marrow specifically, are the position in which the erythropoiesis, the formation of all different kinds of blood cells, takes place. So if we just try to take a look into the diagrammatic form, if you can see right here that this is time of birth, okay, and this is being written into the terms of weeks, prenatal or the postnatal. If we're talking about the erythropoiesis, which is happening up until the 6th week, it will be the yolk sac bone. I mean to say that it's just because it does not have bone marrow, the RBC or the different kinds of blood cells will be formed by the yolk sac. After some weeks, the liver will be made. The job will be taken over by the liver. Now it will start to make the erythropoiesis. It will start to do the erythropoiesis, and then slowly and steadily spleen comes. The liver and spleen works hand in hand. When the child is going to take birth, just before that and after that, the majorly this work is being done by the bone marrow. And if we talk about what will be the relative concentration of the alpha, beta, or the gamma, so we can say that you can see that in each and every condition, whether it is hemoglobin A, F, A2, the alpha is constant. So you can expect the concentration of the alpha to be there in a very normal stagnant form. While if you're comparing with the beta and the gamma, we can expect beta to first be less and then go up when the child is going to take birth. And first it has to be, if you're talking about the gamma, first it has to be more, and then later it can go down. And the same pattern actually we see for the gamma. First it is high into the fetus and it goes down when the child has taken birth. And we're talking about the beta. First it will be less, and after it has taken birth it will go and it will help to make the adult hemoglobin. So this was the version 6. Let us take the adult hemoglobin, and we know that we can have one polypeptide chain. If we are talking about, like, one polypeptide chain is made up of different kinds of a linear chain of amino acid it is. So if we are talking about the sixth amino acid, the sixth amino acid, it is coming from one particular codon, and that codon was GAG, and somehow it got mutated. The A got mutated, and now we have GTG in spite of GAG. And this is the only point mutation which can initially it was supposed to accommodate or a code for glutamic acid, in which is hydrophilic in its nature. Now it is going to get converted into the valine, and this is a very large mutation because you have replaced a hydrophilic molecule, a hydrophilic amino acid, with the hydrophobic amino acid. Now what is going to happen? This is going to code for the normal hemoglobin, which is hemoglobin A, and valine, where we have got the valine, it is going to code for the hemoglobin S. So the main question is that what is the difference between hemoglobin A and hemoglobin S? We know that hemoglobin A, it had the glutamic acid which had a normal solubility. Now this normal solubility enabled these different hemoglobin molecules to scatter into the RBC very equally, and they can make oxygen to travel from one place to the another place. While hemoglobin S, which had the valine, now it is protruding from the main structure, and just because it is protruding, it has this capacity to bind to the other hemoglobin molecules, and they can make an array, and that which is going to clump all those hemoglobin molecules that are present into the RBC, and hence it is going to get its so-called sickled shape. Now let us try to see that what will happen if we have the sickle shape RBC. If we're looking at the small arteries and the different capillaries that are going to get clogged and they're going to get plugged. If we try to see into the terms of figure, you can see onto the left figure, it is a person who had the sickle shaped blood. You can see these sickle shaped RBCs. This is the normal blood, and how these sickle shaped RBC are clogging these blood vessels. Okay, so now let us try to see that how it can make a difference. So, it can let you have the oxygen deficit, because now just because the shape is not different, the hemoglobin is not doing its own duty, then you will have less amount of oxygen into the body. Less amount of oxygen can lead to different kinds of manifestations. You can get infection, you can get frequently ill, and ultimately your brain, you can have a learning deficit as well. What other implications can happen? That it can lead to your hemolysis. Just because these RBCs can burst even, they can lead to the anemic condition. The person may have anemia, and anemia may lead to the heart failure. I mean to say, like, not specifically anemia, but heart failure is happening because of the hemolysis, and these coronary arteries are getting clogged up. So it can lead to the heart disease as well. And ultimately, just because you do not have enough amount of oxygen, the brain is not going to develop very efficiently, and we can have some problems into the brain, and it can again lead to the learning deficit. Other things that can come up because of the hemolysis, the liver somehow is getting damaged. If the liver is getting damaged, obviously we can expect other organs to follow this pattern as well, and it can ultimately lead to multi-organ failure, and person may have a brain affected, or it may lead to death even. Okay, this was the main idea of, like, what will be the effect of sickle cell anemia onto different onto the body. Let us try to see that what is the relation between the sickle cell anemia and the malaria. If we try to see that if the person is homozygotic, if both the alleles, just because we humans are deployed in our nature, we have got two alleles. So onto one chromosome we have HBA, and another we have again HBA. Now the person may get infected with the malaria parasite, and malarial parasite is going to go, and it'll enter into the RBC, and it'll start to divide slowly and steadily. It is going to infect the whole body, and the person will have the normal malarial symptoms and all these things. What about if the person is heterozygotic? If the person is heterozygotic, if one allele is the HBS and one allele is HBA, then the person will have the sickle shape RBC, some of them. Obviously, when the parasite is going to enter into the body, he will not get the enough opportunity to divide itself, and it will lag behind, and the person may have a little bit symptoms of malaria, but he cannot get severely ill because of the malaria, and there will be no symptom of the sickle cell anemia as well, because he has the normal hemoglobin as well. We're talking about the third condition, which is the most homozygotic condition. If both the alleles are of the sickle shaped hemoglobin. Now, into this particular case, there will be no infection for the malaria, because the person has the RBC, which is sickle shape. The parasite cannot divide into these RBCs, and person will not have the malaria, but somehow he will have all the symptoms for the sickle cell anemia. This is for sure. And if you want all this PDF to download or to view, I am going to provide the link into the description below. You can open it there. Thank you.